All right, we're going to be presenting on the CDFI certification collective review process today. Here's an outline of our presentation. We're going to give a high-level overview, go into the collective review statutory and regulatory requirements, cover which entities are subject to the collective review process, which affiliates are relevant to the collective review process, how to demonstrate compliance, and then we're going to go into that Q&A portion of the presentation. Okay, at a high level, what is the collective review? It's a process by which the affiliates of certain applicants are assessed to make sure that the applicant collectively meets the CDFI certification requirements. These requirements are going to affect the way that applicants will respond to questions in the basic information section, primary mission, target market, and accountability sections of the CDFI certification application. In terms of the basic information section, it's not just going to affect the part that says basic information, it also will impact the financial products and services subsections as well. Who is subject to the collective review? If the applicant is either a depository institution holding company, the affiliate of a DIHC, or a subsidiary of an insured depository institution, then they are subject to the collective review process. We're going to get more into that in a moment. Let's cover the statutory and regulatory requirements for the CDFI certification collective review process. Moving into this, under the revised version of the application, the collective review is not a new requirement. This is something that's been in place for a number of years. It actually was in our original CDFI fund statute that authorized the CDFI certification, and it's in our current regulations. So if you want to look at it, on the screen are the sections where the collective review is referenced in both the statutory, which is towards the right, towards the left. Oops. At least I think you can see it on the left. And then the regulations, which would be the CDFI program interim regulations. And you can access this on any public database related to regulations or statutes. You can also access this on our public website. That information is available there. Under the statute, it's called consolidated treatment. Under the regulations, it's simply called provisions applicable to depository institution holding companies and IDIs, or insured depository institutions. I'm going to also cover what are some defined terms that we relate to. We bring back to these terms in all of our application guidance documents and relevant materials to the CDFI certification. So if you ever need to access, if you see a defined term, it's capitalized, etc., you can refer back to the regulatory defined terms. These are all defined in our regulation. So we have depository institution holding company, or DIHC, insured depository institution, affiliate, subsidiary, controlled, controlling, or control. This is what we classify that. Financial products and financial services. I just wanted to provide some of this information in there in case anybody will use this PowerPoint as a resource moving forward. Great. So which entities are subject to the collective review process? It depends upon what your entity type is if you're an applicant. We have depository institution holding companies, DIHCs. These are bank holding companies or savings and loan companies as defined by Section 3 of the Federal Deposit Insurance Act. We have an affiliate of a DIHC. This is any entity that is controlled by or operates under common control with a DIHC. A subsidiary of an IDI, this is any entity that is owned or controlled by a bank or thrift that its deposits are insured by the FDIC. So if your entity falls into any of the categories referenced, your entity is subject to the collective review. I'm going to show you where we identify this on the CDFI certification application. In the basic information section of the application, there's these 3 data fields that would basically allow you to identify your entity as being subject to the collective review. BI 03 asks if you're a depository institution holding company, you say yes or no. BI 14, you say if you're an affiliate of a depository institution holding company, yes or no. 15, subsidiary of an IDI, yes or no. So yes in any of these fields would indicate that you are subject to the collective review process. Great. Now we're going to cover which affiliates are relevant to the collective review process. If an applicant is subject to the collective review, the relevant affiliates will be reviewed if any affiliate, or if your applicant is subject to the collective review process, the relevant affiliates are any affiliate that is either an DIHC or an IDI that controls the applicant. If the applicant themselves is a DIHC, then any affiliate that the applicant controls that directly engages in financing activity. And then any affiliate that is mutually controlled with the applicant by a DIHC or an IDI that directly engages in financing activity. And I'm flagging this controlled, or this controlling definition because I want to encourage any prospective applicants to please look at this defined term: control, controlling, controlled. There's 3, if you go back to it earlier in the presentation, there's 3 different points of what we consider to be a controlling relationship. And I want to make sure that folks are examining their family of entities to make sure that they know exactly which affiliates are relevant to their applicant's collective review. So if the applicant is a DIHC, then all affiliates of a DIHC that are either bank or thrift holding companies or that engage in financing activity are subject to or relevant to the collective review. If the applicant is an affiliate of a DIHC, all affiliated DIHCs and all affiliates of the affiliated DIHCs that are either bank or thrift holding companies or that engage in financing activity are subject to the collective review. And this also captures, when we're talking about affiliates of the affiliated DIHCs, this captures entities that may not be directly affiliated with the applicant themselves, but since they are affiliates of the affiliated DIHC, they are relevant for the collective review process as what we would consider a related entity. And then we have, if the applicant is a subsidiary of an IDI, the controlling IDIs and all subsidiaries of controlling IDIs that are either bank thrift holding companies or that engage in financing activity are relevant for the collective review. So these are some of the methods that we use to determine relevancy for the collective review. We look at the Federal Financial Institutions Examining Council. We search your institution name, and we use sometimes the RSSD ID, which is provided in the legal entity section of the application. We look at the FDIC institution directory. We look at the AMIS affiliate / related entities list, which is something that we'll talk about in a few moments. Oh, and I wanted to flag one other comment on this this part. We look at the AMIS affiliates / related entities records for both the applicant and any identified affiliate. So if you did identify an affiliate in your application, we're going to look at that affiliates related list as well for the affiliates and related entities to see if there's maybe any other entities that are actually they're relevant to the collective review process, but maybe they weren't presented. So that's just to make sure you watch out for that. We're also looking at the stock certificate summary report if your applicant issues stock, and then the governance document. So I'm going to stop here with the governance document to clarify 1.2. When you look at that definition of control, controlled, controlling, there's going to be elements that are related to ownership, elements that are related to rights to governing leadership roles, for instance, like rights on a governing board. And then there's another element where it's influence on the management or finance management decisions. It's related to that. We can identify certain relationships sometimes through an applicant's governance document between them and certain affiliates and stuff. So when we're looking for potential affiliate relationships, we're also looking to make sure that there isn't some kind of mechanism that an affiliate could have rights to an applicant's highest decision-making authority or their governing leadership. Also, it's related to staffing, it's related to financial decision-making, general business operations. We're going to, in the coming weeks, release an updated FAQ talking about how to identify controlling relationships with affiliates to hopefully provide a little bit of clarity on this item. But here are the methods that we determine relevancy for the collective review. Okay, I'm going to show you where in the application this is actually going to be identified. So it starts, you're going to want to create an affiliate AMIS org detail page for each affiliate that's relevant to the collective review. You'll want to make sure that each affiliate's AMIS information has updated information in there. Then in the applicant's AMIS org detail page, you'll want to create an affiliate / related entities record. You'll do that, and I'll show you during the demonstration portion of this presentation. But then you'll create an entity's relevance to the certification review. As you might be able to see at the bottom of that second screenshot, there's a section where you're going to create that sub-record. That's where you indicate whether or not the affiliate that you're presenting is relevant to either just the primary mission test or perhaps the full collective review. This is an example of the entity relevance for certification record. This is where you answer those questions. After you've created this affiliate record in your applicant's AMIS profile, you'll have a chance in the application to actually link this board or this affiliate record into the application for that connection. And if you can look, there's this is in the basic information section of the application. You can add as many rows as applicable to your entity's family of entities. All right, now we're going to cover how to demonstrate compliance for the collective review requirements. During the CDFI certification application review process, the CDFI fund will review the individual activities of an applicant, as well as the activity of an applicant's affiliates to make sure that the applicant and its affiliates collectively meet the requirements of the CDFI certification. I'm going to first cover primary mission requirements. for affiliates, or the affiliates that are relevant to the collective review process. So all relevant affiliates must have the promotion of community development as their current governing leadership approved primary mission. The affiliate's activities must support or be consistent with the applicant's community development mission. And all eligible financing activity that an affiliate might engage in must meet the primary mission related responsible financing practices standards. I'm going to cover a little bit more about this mission documentation. We're looking for a mission statement that references financing activity to low-income individuals, other targeted populations as designated by the CDFI fund, or residents of or businesses located in economically distressed communities. We're also looking for references, perhaps like promoting affordable housing, the development of community facilities, economic development, or supporting the provision of various community services. So that should be in the actual mission statement of each affiliate relevant to the collective review. The documentation that's displaying the mission should indicate that the governing leadership approval of that affiliate's governing leadership that is signed as a binding mission, the mission for the organization signed into place at a time prior to the application submission. And it's important to note for DIHC applicants that are using something called the DIHC provision, this provision is if a DIHC does not engage in any financing activity itself, it will rely on its affiliates to meet the target market test. If that is the case, the documentation must evidence the documentation of the affiliates that are engaged in the financing activity must evidence that the governing leadership of that affiliate signed the mission into place as of at least 6 months prior to the application submission. So in case that was a little too meandering and wasn't concise, I'm going to just repeat that. So for a DIHC applicant that is using the provision because they don't engage in any financing activity themselves and they're relying on the affiliates to meet the target market activity requirements, that documentation needs to evidence governing leadership approval as of at least 6 months prior to the mission submission, the application submission. That's a similar requirement for the applicant, by the way. Okay, and then primary mission evidence would be an organizing document, articles of incorporations, charters, or similar, a governance document, bylaws, operating agreement, etc., or a governing leadership approved resolution or directive that clearly states this is the primary mission of this entity. So now we're going to cover the target market rate. Oh, actually, sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. I'm going to show you where you would actually present this in the application. So in the application, we have our primary mission section, and there are these 4 subsections related to affiliate primary mission requirements. I highlighted them here. This is where you'll provide the documentation. You'll respond to various questions related to responsible financing practices, and you'll provide a narrative indicating how the affiliate's activities support the community development mission of the applicant. There's another thing I want to flag now that we're in the application portion. If an affiliate is either a certified CDFI, a certified CDE, or its sole line of business is engaged in federal financing activity or federal financing program, then we automatically accept that affiliate as meeting the primary mission requirements. There will be drop downs in this section of the application where you'll be able to indicate that your affiliate meets one of those 3 conditions if it does. And then if it doesn't, you'll just respond to the data fields and provide us the information that we're requesting. Okay, now we'll go into the target market requirements. Sorry about that. But an applicant, in order to meet the collective review target market requirement, an applicant themselves must dedicate at least 60% of its individual financing activity to its target market. Then at least 60% of the combined financing activity of the applicant and all of its affiliates must be dedicated to their collective certification market. So each affiliate that's relevant to the collective review process does not need to individually meet that 60% target market threshold. However, in aggregate, the applicant and all of the affiliates must meet that 60% benchmark in number or dollar volume. There is, okay, well, I didn't cover it in the next slide, so let me talk about this now. There is something called the financial services provision. I'm sure many people might be aware of this. This is a option for depository institutions. So if at the time of your application submission, all unique account holders for deposit accounts, you're basing the assessment off of that. If you are offering financial services, it's based on all unique account holders. And if 60% of the total account holders would qualify for your proposed target market, then the requirements, the other thresholds for the financial product activities can be smaller to 50%. So for instance, if of all of your if you offer financial services, if all the account holders meet the 60% benchmark requirement, then we would allow for the quantity of your target market directed financial product activity to be 50%, so long that the dollar volume of that financial product activity meets the 60% threshold, and vice versa. I can answer more questions about that as we move on in the Q&A portion of this. Okay, so here are some steps to provide the affiliate collective review target market information. We need to identify collective review markets for each affiliate. This is a note. The collective review market does not need to be the exact same target market as the applicant. It just needs to be an eligible CDFI certification target market that affiliate serves. So long that the affiliate has accountability, it utilizes a pre-approved target market assessment methodology. It can use what we consider a collective review market that is different than the applicant's target market. But back to the steps, we're identifying a collective review market for each of its affiliates. Then we're going to create a CDFI certification market record for the collective review in each of the affiliates' AMIS profile. We're going to upload a TLR presenting activity for each affiliate, and then we're going to run the target market calculator for the affiliate to determine the affiliate organization's threshold results. So connection to the CDFI certification application. You're going to create the CDFI certification market records for the applicant in the applicant's AMIS org detail page. Then you will also create the CDFI certification market records for each relevant affiliate. And you're going to create that in the affiliate's AMIS org detail page. This is what it looks like when you go to create a new CDFI certification market record in AMIS. Excuse me. If you're creating a CDFI certification market record for an affiliate that's relevant to the collective review, in that affiliate's AMIS org profile or org detail page, the market record must have a record purpose of CDFI certification collective review for another entity. Oh, I went too fast. This is what it looks like after the record's been completed. This is an example of after you've uploaded the activity into your TLR for all the affiliates, as well as for the applicant, you'll be able to use the target market calculator to calculate your data. Oops. When we're doing the test for the collective review for the financial product activity, we're going to be looking at the affiliate organization threshold to make sure that the entity collectively met the target market requirements. And now I'm going to cover compliance with the affiliate collective review accountability requirements. So an applicant must demonstrate accountability to both individually to its own CDFI certification target market based on its own accountability method, as well as collectively, where each relevant affiliate must also demonstrate accountability to the collective review market via its own accountability method. There is something called the collective review controlling entity option for accountability. So as an option, if one of the relevant affiliates relevant to the collective review process does not engage in its own financing activity, it may demonstrate accountability via the entity that controls it. Even if that controlling entity, or even if that relevant entity has not formally adopted the board used by the controlling entity as its own board, it can use the controlling entity option. So a single controlling entity can provide accountability for as many entities relevant to the CDFI certification collective review process, as long as it meets the conditions to use that provision. And if a controlling entity will be used to provide accountability for entities relevant to an applicant's collective review, a governing leadership approved document evidencing the applicable control relationship must be available and provided in the organization board record. Great, so I'm going to cover where you will present this information in the application. So to create these records in AMIS, you'll go to the affiliates AMIS detail page or detail page, and you'll create a new board. When you're presenting accountability information to another group's or another entity collective review, each board record needs to have the CDFI certification collective review for another entity purpose. There's 3 different types of purposes, and I'll show you that more in the demonstration portion of this. But this is just highlighting that. Make sure that the purpose is for the collective review. Even if the affiliate is applying as a CDFI themselves, and they have their own board information in there for that application, you still should create an AMIS organization board record for the actual affiliate related to the collective review for that other applicant. Here are some screenshots of what it looks like when you've created the board. You have to create organization board members for all of the membership on each relevant board. And then you create CDFI certification accountable member record for each board member that's accountable to the collective review market or the target market. Okay, before we go into the CDFI certification collective review process Q&A, I'm going to actually take a moment and share my screen and go into what it actually looks like for an entity in AMIS while we do this. All righty. So this is a test applicant, and I'm going to just walk through some of the record information. So at the beginning, when we were talking about affiliates that are relevant to the applicant's collective review, I was referencing affiliate/related entities pages. So you're going to go to AMIS, and if you select related, you can scroll down to the affiliate/related entities related list, and you should be able to select new and add all of the information relevant to the affiliate you're trying to present. This is the record that gets linked into the application. From this record, we're able to access the affiliates organization detail page, and we're also able to access the relevance to the CDFI certification review sub-record. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So once you create the affiliate/related entity record in AMIS, you're going to create this entity relevance to the CDFI or the certification review. And you can select new. You're going to indicate whether or not it's for the CDFI certification or CDE. And then you're going to respond to questions that would help us identify why this affiliate is relevant to the certification review in general, whether it be for the primary mission requirements or for the collective review requirements. Okay. So now let's cover the target market or the CDFI certification market aspect of this. So if you click on the related list and scroll down to CDFI certification markets, you can select new. So if this is an AMIS account for an affiliate of an entity that's applying for CDFI certification, you would create a collective review market record. So you would name it using the naming convention still. This is org 18. And let's just say we're going to do, let's say we'll do an LITP target market type. And this is the first time that we're presenting this, so I'm going to put a 1 here. If this is being presented for another entity's collective review process, you're going to want to make sure that the record purpose does not say CDFI certification, own certification. You're going to want to make sure it says CDFI certification, collective review for another entity. And then you can select your target market type and then save it. Oh, I forgot one aspect of that. I'm happy that it called me. So if you are presenting a market record that's for an affiliate that's relevant to another applicant's collective review, you're going to want to identify the entity that is actually subject to the collective review by identifying their affiliate record. And you'll save it. Great. And then the last thing I'm going to cover before we move into the Q&A portion of this is I'm going to cover how to create these organization board records. So if you are in an AMIS org detail page, you can click on this drop down towards the right, click new org board, and you're going to be able to create a new org board. So I'm going to create one for this entity's governing board. And this is the real purpose of me actually showing you this. If you're presenting accountability information for an applicant's collective review for the affiliate, if you're presenting affiliate accountability information, that is, you're going to want to make sure that the board record that you're using is one of these collective review for another entity types. So if you remember, I had mentioned the controlling entity provision or the controlling entity option. There are these two relevant purposes for the controlling entity, and then there is this single accountability self-provided. So accountability self-provided, that's for an affiliate that's providing its own accountability to the collective review market. Then, if the affiliate is using the controlling entity option, you will create a record that basically will link the controlling entity's accountability record to this applicant's org detail page. That's the second option. Then if you are if you're making a organization board record for the controlling entity themselves, then you will create the record that says controlling entities record. And that's how you would show your accountability. Alrighty, so we're going to move back into the regular part of the presentation that was planned. That was kind of a that was just kind of an improvisational thing that I wanted to show. But basically, if you have any questions about the CDFI certification, contact the CDFI Fund's Office of Certification Policy and Evaluation via AMIS request, service request. For questions related to the ACR or TLR, contact the CDFI Fund's Office of Financial Strategies and Research via CDFI-Financial Strategies and Research at cdfi.treas.gov or by submitting an AMIS request. And for detailed guidance, we also provide our various supplemental guidance, our written forms of guidance in webinars that convey a lot of the information that we presented here today. Here is our call schedule for the next coming months. Our next call is going to be February 6th about the primary mission affiliate requirements. All right, so with that, this concludes the presentation portion of this webinar. I'm going to turn the I'm going to pause the recording, and then we're going to get into the question portion of this.